Hello and good morning and welcome to Assange call, morning call for Friday the 12th of April 2019. I'm Fab from Hamburg and this is your tech news. Oh, coffee spill averted. Yesterday, just after I went off the air, it was reported that the London police had arrested Julian Assange. They did not. I told them I can't. I can delay this show for you, but I can't delay it forever. It's called Morning Call. And so they did it. They did it after the show was over. So we'll have to talk about it today. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, chat room. How are you doing? If you're already sick of Assange news, this will not be the show for you, I guess. Julian Assange, who was in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. I walked past there quite a few times when I was living there. For, I don't know, 9 years, 7 years, something like that. He was in there a long time. No, I think 7 years. In 2012, he didn't surrender to charges, and this is why he's now been arrested, because he jumped bail, and he's facing up to 12 months in prison. But of course, that's in the UK. But of course, the US has unsealed indictments from who? When was that? I think 2013, 2015, something like that. Basically, they want to charge him with conspiracy and hacking in regards to. So the charges are that he conspired with Chelsea Manning to hack Department of Defense computers to get those Iraq war files. And they are apparently requesting to extradite Assange. There's also now a case in Sweden because, he originally was going to be charged in Sweden with, or he was to appear in court in a rape case, sexual assault case, and he said he ran to the Ecuadorian embassy and got asylum there because he was afraid that were he to be convicted in Sweden, then they would extradite him to the US. But now apparently that case has been activated again. Apparently the Swedish officials didn't know, like the US and the UK officials, that the Ecuadorian embassy would kick him out. The Ecuadorian president would rescind his Ecuadorian passport and kick him out. So they basically hustled yesterday, very quickly compiled the papers, and I guess are starting up this case as well. So I guess everybody's expecting Sweden to ask for extradition of Assange as well. Jay Poser says in the chat, it is false and defamatory to suggest that Julian Assange lives or has ever lived in a basement, cupboard, or under the stairs. I don't know where that is from. I think it's in response to the Register starting their story on Assange with the sentence, one-time Aussie cupboard dweller, Julian Assange, has been charged with conspiracy to commit computer intrusion by the US government. Okay, that is apparently from an Ars Technica article. Can't really open that link in my setup right now. Is that from a court case where Assange sued because somebody said he used to live in a cupboard? God, there's so much about this Assange stuff that I'd read back in the day that I've forgotten. So this is a very interesting case now for me. Jay Poser says, no, he just released a list of things you can't say about him because he's mad. I don't know if he's mad, but that strikes me as something that RMS would do. And if you look at what Assange looks like when they carried him out of the embassy, he has a bit of an RMS look about him going there. Also, apparently, one of the reasons they kicked him out, at least the Ecuadorian officials are saying, is because of hygiene issues. There has been reports that he has smeared feces on the walls and stuff like that. And that would fit with his certainly with his current look. He doesn't look like he's shaved or cut his hair in quite some time. But on the other hand, what will you do? You're sitting there in the embassy in a small room. I mean, you get very bored. It is false and defamatory to suggest that Julian Assange stinks. Apparently not false, says Jay Poser. That's amazing. Maybe I should do that. Just, preemptively. Just put out a list of stuff people should not say about me. It's false and defamatory to suggest that Fabian A. Scherschel is not leading a very, very active sex life. Anyway, so this story is very interesting for me because, these charges the US have brought are very problematic if, like me, you work as a journalist in InfoSec. So basically what they're saying, I guess, that Assange did is Chelsea Manning had sent him some files and then wasn't able to get at some other files and sent him a password, and apparently Assange used rainbow tables to crack this password to give, or like a password hash. She sent him a password hash, and then he cracked that, and that gave Manning access to some files, including that video. Let's not forget everything. We're talking here like the jokes and the personal stuff with Assange. Some of the stuff he leaked, that video from Iraq, where there's like US soldiers gunning down two Reuters journalists who are clearly journalists carrying cameras and not guns. Videos like that, US soldiers recklessly just like killing people. Just serious stuff. So there's definitely some good that he did that came out of that, but so they're saying he broke that password hash and then sent the password to Manning, and she was able to get more files. Now I think it's clear here that morally and ethically what he did is wrong. I would not dispute that. The big problem here being that okay, how do I say this without the police knocking down my door? if you work in information security as a journalist, and if you do this for a while, you will get at points in your career where you will do things that under the laws in your country might or might not be illegal. Sometimes you don't know. Sometimes it's a case of you're investigating something. So basically, it's always you have a source. The source is often might have hacked some systems themselves, so they want to be anonymous. So you're very limited in what you can do. Poke around there. I mean, you need to find out. You need to protect your sources, or your source, and you need to find out if what the source tells you is right. So you need to verify that, and often that clashes because you can't just go to their workplace and ask around, because I mean you need to protect your source. So sometimes they will tell you something, and you will want to verify what they did, and sometimes it's just a case of clicking on the wrong link, and you have just hacked the system, because in the legal definition of gaining on unlawful access to a computer system, there's lots of stuff that falls under that. At least in the UK and in Germany, so in the jurisdictions I've worked in as a journalist, and you have to be very careful. And sometimes you are careful and you're doing things, and you notice later that oops, that might be legally, that might be a problem. So not disputing at all that what Assange did was, if this is correct, if the indictment is correct, was wrong. The problem is, if you are going to prosecute people for this, it will. I mean, it's not so much a problem in Germany, where our legal system doesn't work like that, but in the US and the UK, it will set a. Harry Vitana says, "Mr. Scherschel, open up." I can see out the window, so if they come with a truck, I'll be able to just see. If you see me run away, you know what's happened. I need to get to the Ecuadorian embassy in London quick. They have the consulate. I think there's the Iranian consulate in Hamburg is relatively close by. Maybe that'll give me asylum. But so you will do some things that might later turn out to be illegal. I mean, in Germany, it was ridiculous for a while, because we have had this law. Well, we still have this law. It's just been agreed basically by lawmakers not to use it in certain ways, which basically says any hacking tool is illegal. By hacking tool, I mean that definition encompasses things like Wireshark. So using that to break into traffic would be illegal. So if let's say I'm writing a story, let's say take something very innocuous. Let's say I'm writing a story about apps, mobile apps, and I want to see if they phone home, right? And asking the company what these apps do will only get you this far. We know they do actively lie to people. There have been stories where people have found out that that apps send info, and the companies blatantly say no, it doesn't. And then you look into the traffic, and you can prove that it does. And to do that, you would open Wireshark and break into the TLS encryption, something like that, and you will break encryption. And that would be, for a while in Germany, that was a huge risk for journalists. That was against the law, and that they could have prosecute you if they ever found out. Now in Germany, we have some press protections, so the laws apply to you, but in some cases, the state will not charge you with things, because you were working as press and stuff, and you were legitimately researching a story. Now the problem with that is that's always a gray area. I mean, there's lots of debate on what does constitute press. Do I have to work for for a newspaper? Can I be a blogger? Can I be a freelance journalist like myself right now? They will come through the window, says ASCII. Well, it's a window's right here. I can. Police headquarters actually very close, so they don't have to go a long way. So this is all very very interesting. So the problem is, I mean, I guess they knew this. So it's very pointedly the U.S. never charged him under the Obama administration for publishing that information, because I guess that would have also meant they would have had to charge Der Spiegel here in Germany, in Hamburg, the Guardian, who also published WikiLeaks information, and there's a very interesting editorial in the Guardian, the Guardian's view on Assange and extradition. The Guardian view, they say, that sounds weird. Say no to the US, and it's basically they're saying that they do disagree with the way he published information. The bulk big WikiLeaks just putting the data out. Journalists have consistently said that this is a bad. I always felt that journalists often say that because it's basically their job to get the data. They say, give us the raw data and we'll decide what to publish. And if you take that away from them, that's a big selling point that journalism loses. Like, if people start doing that just themselves, you don't need journalists anymore. But there's a good point there, like, taking the names out of innocence out there and deciding what to publish. But they're basically saying, look, if you're doing this, if you will charge him with this, if you extradite him for this, that this is going to be a serious problem for journalists. And also, let's point out here, I was talking about journalists the whole time. Security researchers are in a much bigger bind as well, because they doing legally much. They do stuff in gray areas, and they don't even have like the press protections. And that's a reason why often security researchers, when they find something like this, will go through the press. Like, I had lots of stories where security researchers would come to me and say, well, found a security hole. If I go to this vulnerability, if I go to this company and tell them there could be a threat to me, like they could charge me, right? They could try to find out who I am and then just like drag me to court just to prevent me publishing this information and to punish me. Can you help me? Can you do this? Can you contact them, because you're the press, and they can't really as easily do that to you. Stuff like that. So this is also a big problem for security researchers. So Haru Vatana says, we currently have, this is interesting, so some input here from other countries. I always think this is great. Thanks for sending that. We currently have an ongoing story in Portugal with Rui Pinto, probably pronouncing that wrong, the hacker that was caught in the Football League's case. The point of that case is exactly that, what constitutes a reporter journalist these days. Yeah, that's an ongoing discussion here in Germany as well. I think the courts have so far ruled that if you are, if you're doing the job of a journalist, like you're protecting your sources, you're researching a story, and then you're publishing that story, and you're doing that within the ethical guidelines that journalists have here, then you are considered a journalist. So we have the Pressekodex, which is like basically a thing journalists agree to together as an industry, it's not mandatory. It's just we agree to adhere to that, and it's like some ethical guidelines. Mike says he's missed the start. No worries. I've just been talking about Julian Assange for about 20 minutes now. it'll as always discuss also. For people who are new to this, I'm recording this on Twitch live. It will then be as a video on Twitch for I think 14 days until Twitch releases it. But after the show, I immediately export it to YouTube. It'll be on YouTube. I'll chop some empty video off the front and the end, and it'll be for easy consumption on YouTube. And then, of course, on sixgun.org/MC, I will also release this as a podcast. So you will be able to hear that. Okay, so let's move on. 20 minutes. It's been very long. I originally aimed for this show to be 15 minutes long, like when I started the podcast or the show. So you know how much I'm failing in this. Speaking of Russia, Julian, sorry, what? The Russians have passed that law where they will basically route all of the Russian internet traffic inside of the country and basically isolate their part of the internet and just have, like, I guess, border, junctions where like at very few points it goes into the rest of the internet, so that in an emergency, air quotes, they can just switch it off and just isolate the Russian Federation from the rest of the internet. I love that they're calling it their own internet, because hello, do you know what the inter in internet means? It means it's more than one country, you dumbasses. Mike says, glad that I could provide a vehicle for advertising. That's how it goes, man. That's the real skill in doing a show like this. Yeah, anyway, so this law has been passed. There have been demonstrations against this, of course. First step to implement a Chinese firewall. Aski says, yeah, I guess it's more like a Russian firewall. It's more like an Iron Curtain. The ding. So despite protests and, of course, people saying this is a bad idea for obvious reasons. I mean, I've talked about this before. It's been passed. And now President Putin just has to sign the law, and then it's in force. I believe I'm getting... What's this? Okay, we have some pictures. We have some live footage of Putin signing the law right now. I guess here we go. Yeah, he's growing a bit of a mustache there. Fits him quite well. So you'll have to watch the video for that. That was a visual joke. Sometimes I do these. Yahoo, who we know has been hacked. I think that's been the biggest hacking case in the history of hacking cases. So they were hacked in 2013, 2014. Lots of passwords leaked. By lots, I mean. Mike says his hair game has been upped as well.
Mad for Mercedes _Benz.
Hello, Mad for Mercedes. Thanks for following. Yeah, I guess you like the Benz, right? Yeah, so yeah, you are right. He's done something to his hair, hasn't he? Yeah, but yeah, fits him well. Looking good there, Vlad. Anyway, so Yahoo, millions of passwords leaked. I think 194 million. So there was a court case, and they had to pay. What did they have to pay? So I think $50 million. But so apparently there's been a new case or new complaints that this didn't include all the costs that the defendants had to pay. So basically this was a class action lawsuit representing the 194 million users from the US and Israel whose data was leaked. And so they paid 50 million. Now they've been ordered to pay 117.5 million US dollars. So Yahoo has to pay to get this legal fees. They have to pay $30 million in legal fees. I mean, what? I mean, this is a class action lawsuit, right? This is not literally 194 million people going to court and each having their own lawyer. But still, there's $30 million in legal fees. What the actual fuck? And then, like, other random costs of 2.5 million. I guess it's all the dinners of the lawyers, or like the celebratory champagne or something. So the guys, the people affected get $100 from this. check for $100. As usual, the lawyers are just making how much better than the actual people that got hacked in these class action lawsuits. But I guess a good point is that Yahoo's just having to pay a lot of money for just being shit with their passwords. I guess that's good news, because that'll hopefully put some CEOs on notice that you can't do that anymore. Something I didn't report yesterday because I don't know, I kind of missed the story. There has been several security vulnerabilities have been found in WPA3, which is the newest Wi-Fi protection, like password standard. You're probably, if you're listening to this, everybody at home is probably using WPA2. 3 has just been ratified, I think, last year, and it's already in some devices, but I guess it's pretty much not in wide spread use so far. And so the guy, Matthew Van Hoof, of the New York University Abu Dhabi, I just love this. The New York University Abu Dhabi. I'm guessing this is in Abu Dhabi? Or is it in New York and it's just called Abu Dhabi? I have no idea. He was one of, together with a guy from Tel Aviv called Eyal Ronen, discovered this. Now, Matthew Van Hoof was the guy who discovered the crack vulnerability last year in WPA2, which was one of the big reasons why they started accelerating and, improving security on WPA3. And there's several. There's a denial of service vulnerability here, but most importantly, 2 side channel attacks and 2 downgrade attacks, which can lead to basically, attackers getting the password. Now, the cool thing with WPA3 is, whereas in the previous versions, when you have an open Wi-Fi, anybody has the same key. So if you're on the Wi-Fi, you can see all the other traffic. WPA3 encrypts all the traffic among all the people that are on the Wi-Fi. It's not that important these days anymore because most connections will be HTTPS anyway, so people won't be able to, snoop those. But still, better to have the double encryption than no encryption is pretty good. There's some improvements in the way these passwords are exchanged and stuff, and that's also where the vulnerabilities here come from. Also, I noticed that the story from the Register was a bit later than this guy Fabian A. Scherschel wrote on Heise about the same thing yesterday. For once, I was quicker than the Register, which is a bit of a win for me. Netflix has announced that it's raising its Abo. I'm reading the German headline. Abo-Preise. Its subscription fee in Germany from $10.99 to $11.99 for the standard subscription, and then the other stuff obviously is getting more expensive as well. This mostly interesting because Disney yesterday announced that they're launching their streaming service. I guess Disney Plus it's called. Everything's called Plus these days. And that's coming in November. And it's going to be $7. So they're trying to undercut Netflix pretty much. I'm just, oh God. Is this going to be more Star Wars and Marvel crap? I'm not interested. I'm just mad because I read somewhere recently that the golden age of streaming was over, where you needed one service or maybe 2 for video and then 1 for audio, and you were set. And now it's just this. It's like the Epic Store thing again. It's going to be more stores, more places to pay. I'm predicting this all of this in a few years. They're going to whinge that piracy, which took a big dip after all these streaming services got affordable and everybody could use them, is going to be on the rise again because nobody's going to pay for 4 subscription services to get their music, to get their TV shows, their Star Wars and their Star Trek. You'd have to have Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus, and CBS All Access or something to watch everything you want to watch. That's gonna. I'm predicting that now. And HBO, Halifa says, if you're watching Game of Thrones, Oh God. No, let's not. That's well, it's that's just the Brave New World. That's just how it's gonna go. Two more stories I have here. One is that Tesla is not expanding their Gigafactory anymore. They were working together with Panasonic. This is their huge battery factory in Nevada, which I talked about previously because of this whistleblower who said that conditions there are horrible. There's like punctured battery packs lying everywhere, dangerous. People are sleeping in the cars in the car park, having sex in parts of the factory that aren't completed. Everybody's doing meth and coke in the bathrooms. So Panasonic didn't give any reasons, but it looks like financial problems at both companies, so at Tesla and Panasonic. So this story here on Golem says that Panasonic, who I guess is making the batteries, has last year made a loss of $180 million by collaborating on the Tesla production. Basically because Tesla took too long to accelerate sales of the Model 3. They also don't want to invest into a new battery factory in Shanghai. Looks like. So not everything going well for Tesla there. That factory just looks mad. I mean, look at that. Just imagine you're doing security for that thing. No wonder everybody's like doing coke in the bathrooms. So it's kind of like the Assange in the embassy, just at massive scale. Don't know if they're smearing shit on the walls, but yeah. And then we have a space fail in spacefaring news. Israel, who tried to land a probe on the moon and would have been, I think, the fourth country to land anything on the moon, and some engine, I guess some reaction control thruster or something, didn't fire, and the thing just smashed into the moon, and it's now moon dust or something. I think interestingly some Dutch amateur astronomers at the Dwingaloo, could be in Australia as well, the Dwingaloo radio telescope was watching the probe, and they were kind of looking, doing some measurements for Doppler effect, and they looks like they saw it smash into the moon. So that's gone, but they want to build a second landing thing. This was a commercial mission out of Israel, I guess. And with that, that's it for this week for Morning Call. I hope you're having a good Friday, and I hope you'll have a good weekend. And I'll be sitting here now awaiting German police to storm my flat. Anyway, have a good weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. I'll be J Pause is going again.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
Oh, thanks for subscribing. Is that Eric Wetner? Amazing, pretty cool. Much appreciated. Keeps this thing going. Anyway, have a good weekend. I'll be at TwitchCon. I guess David Hasselhoff's coming on Sunday, so I'm gonna see if I can get a picture with the Hoff. And then I'll be back on Monday, probably with some lack of sleep. and like toothpicks in my eyes. But I'll be there. I'll be doing the show, unless I get arrested before. See you then. Have a good weekend. Goodbye.